Hey there, YouTube. I put up a video the other day. Obviously, I was just stirring the pot a little bit, talking about, what the best pistol is. The best pistol ever. So let's take some comments, because I put out, let's talk about the Glock 19. So, let's get some other people's opinions. This guy says, opinions on the M&Ps versus the Glocks for competition. Any input would help with my decision. There's a lot of guys in the comments I've noticed asking about the Smith & Wesson stuff. And really what I think happened is that the M&P, like first generation, the M&P 1, it just worked out so badly that a lot of people just kind of quit paying attention. That would be me included. And I came to find out kind of years after the fact, like the M&P 2.0s, they're actually pretty good. Like they really are. Like I think they run well, they shoot well. I've shot some with like some aftermarket stuff on them that are good. To me, M&P v Glock, it's just look at the aftermarket support and, pick the one that you like if you're going to compete with it. But really, the first version of M&P left a really bad taste in people's mouth. Glock 19 is like buying a BCM upper and arrow lower. It's boring, reliable, easy to acquire item that will work, and no one will be impressed. Yeah, I think that's fair. It is. The thing that's annoying about the Glock line now is like all of the different variations of like slide length and like grip size, or I can't keep straight like which one is which with the numbers. Like I can't do it. It's not as bad as the Safariland holsters, but it does really annoy me. Glock 19 or Glock 45 is probably the two most recommended pistols. Yeah, and like it's effectively the same gun, really. There's not much difference. I'm a bigger guy, so I favor 4-inch slide with full-size grip. I agree. That's how I personally prefer that more. PDP 4-inch full-size pistol, I want to try out in the future. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. A lot of guys say, yeah, they like the Glocks. All right, Glock 19 has been so successful as a dual handgun that it's an archetype now. Yes. Anyone brings up buying a 9mm polymer frame pistol, the Glock 19 is usually the first one people mention. It's the default option, which is why most people start with the Glock 19 and then move on to other things pretty quickly. The Glock 19 has a place in the gun collection of everyone. It's by no means everyone's first choice, but it's a millennial and Gen X handgun of choice, much like the 1911 was for boomers and silent generation. Yeah, it's like I appreciate the elegance and the simplicity of Glock, but kind of ironically, the Glock's never really been like my choice. Like I choose the Glock, but I just have used a Glock enough, a little bit forced to do it, that I appreciate things about Glocks. I do like how simple they are. I really do. Really enjoying the content lately. Maybe I haven't watched enough of your videos to hear any thoughts on the M&P line. Yeah, just gave it to you. It seems that I hear more and more online these days about Springfield and Canik. I don't hear that much about Springfield, but the Caniks, I think the Canik guns are pretty good. The frame is a little thin for me, and the reach backstrap to the front of the trigger face on the Caniks is a little bit far for me. That's why I don't have Caniks that I shoot. Like, there's not a reason that I would have them. But I think the Caniks are pretty decent guns. I do hear some like QC issues, like getting them to run sometimes, but fundamentally I think the Caniks are sound. Staccato Cell is going to be fuming at this one. It's like, yeah, a lot of people are really emotional about which gun they're using. They're like, oh, Ben, which gun are you running? And it's like, I shot a Staccato like this week in class, and I, set up a Glock to do stuff with later, and I shot a 40 caliber Glock yesterday in training, and I'm going to shoot a rifle tomorrow. It's like I just kind of do whatever. I'm not really all that wed to this stuff. M&P 2.0 compact 4-inch barrel, same size as the Glock 19. M&P 2.0 triggers, very defined wall. So you know when it breaks. Easier to hit 2-inch targets consistently or targets at distance when you prep the trigger. My Glock 19 trigger has a rolling break with a spongy feel, harder and slower for me to take those precision and distance shots. M&P 2.0 has a more natural grip angle. The dot is on target straight from the draw. With the Glock, I have to remember that I'm shooting a Glock, and I have to remind myself to bend my wrist down to find the dot. Yeah, I think you're just saying the M&P is going to work better for you, in which case you should get an M&P. That would be better for you. I own lots of guns and only 2 Glocks, a 19 and a 17. One is my bedside gun. The other I carry. That's what I think about Glocks. Yeah, Glocks they're like Hondas. They're okay. They're not flashy, but they'll get the job done. Fanboy or not, going to have a tough time outperforming a Glock 19. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like a performance number thing. Like, to me, the Glock 19, like, for as far as shootability, it's a little bit small as far as shootability. As far as a gun that people would carry, it's on the bigger side. It's kind of like the one concealed carry option that you can still effectively shoot, you know? And it's not that expensive, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, the Glock 19 is like a compromise thing. All right. Let's get another one. If I just wanted to buy a pistol for self-protection like the majority of people do, then a Glock most likely is the best pistol to buy. Its availability, track record, price, along with the aftermarket support make it a no-brainer for a lot of people because it's very straightforward and utilitarian. Yes. Like many have said countless times, Glock to the gun world is what Toyota is to the car world. Yes. That being said, exactly why I personally and a lot of other people don't buy into the mass appeal. It's just a Toyota. It's just a Glock. It's very plain. There's no character about it, and there's nothing that it really does well out of the ordinary that a lot of pistols don't do already, other than the fact that there's a ton of them everywhere for cheap. Well, yeah, that's ultimately why the Glock is what it is. There are probably other objectively better performing polymer frame pistols on the Glock in just about every category, but lack of market demand of the Glock, and therefore they simply cannot keep up. Yeah, like a lot of the time, this stuff just feeds on itself. It's kind of like, well, if you're going to buy a rifle, what should you buy? Well, you should buy an AR. You should do that because there's tons of options, and you'll end up with something that you'll be at least pretty happy with. Maybe it won't be like the best for you, like in theory, but you'll definitely get something that'll work well, and it won't be that hard to do it. Another reason Glock owns the market because they were the first popular polymer frame pistol, so naturally over the course of a couple of decades, people are going to be more familiar with the Glock than they will the Smith & Wesson M&P or Walther PDP, and therefore there's going to be more wide use to the Glock and meaning more aftermarket support, meaning more demand. Yes. Now, all this seems ridiculous to a person who doesn't care about that and just wants a pistol for self-defense and nothing else, but there's a lot of enthusiasts on gun circles on the internet, and there's also a lot of people that don't care as much. Enthusiasts, just like in everything, want better things and want things that help them express themselves more accurately. It's just like buying a car. People who aren't car enthusiasts will buy a Toyota because they just don't care. They know it'll get the job done, and that's all they need. An enthusiast will go for something that speaks to him more and is better performing, and that usually means spending more on something sportier or the same amount for less or something different. This is why so many people are arguing in the comments in one big endless loop. Yes. This is why it's fun to talk about this stuff. It's a mixed bag of people who take great interest in it and people who don't take nearly as much interest in it. It's all kind of pointless nowadays because there's a lot of pistols and weapons generally you simply cannot go wrong with. Being accurate, reliable, affordable, and available aren't characteristics specific to just one make and model. Yes. This is just, it's a fun little internet circle jerk, isn't it, people? You prissy bitch of a gun snob is part of why your channel is good. Most gun snobs are emotional, but you seem to have real reasons behind it. I bought a .226 recently, and I like it, but realistically, my Glock 19 is more utilitarian in most aspects. Although I like the .226 experience better, no longer a comp shooter. By the way, just have guns for self-defense. Yeah, I like the SIGs a lot, and this is a kind of a good way to explain. I saw some other guy in the comments was mad. He thought I had changed my mind. Like, my personal pick, if I could just have one gun, would be this, the .226. I would get one milled for an optic, of course. But it's like, this is my personal choice. Like, I like this. It's bigger. It's more shootable than a Glock 19. I like the double single trigger system. It has, that just makes sense to me in my head, which like the first shot is kind of a hard pull. Then after that, it's game on. You got that light single action. I like the mechanical decocker quite a lot with this. I didn't used to kind of appreciate the SIG 226s, but then I had to, and this was a good experience. I had to work with them. And I had to shoot one, and I was like, oh, this gun's actually pretty good. It's better than I'd heard it was. And then watching like the whole unit of guys shooting them, I was like, oh, okay, these work pretty well. Like they're running. There's not issues. Like these are actually really good guns. So like the pick, like for me, I like the 226. But if I was like gonna recommend a gun like to everyone, it wouldn't be this. It's too complicated. With the double single thing, it's like, would I issue that to people? No, I would issue them like a striker fired thing, probably a Glock, because that's just easier. That's kind of the difference. It's like for me, 226. If hey, recommend a gun to everybody, it's like, well, look at the 19 or look at the 17, whatever. Look at that and kind of go from there. I agree with you, Mr. Steger. I've owned many different pistols other than a Glock and finally made the decision a few years back to only train with what I carry on and off duty. That's the Glock. Well, I'm not telling, I don't do that. I shoot with all kinds of stuff. G45 MOS is my favorite. If I had to pick one, it would be G19. Yeah, I sold most of my inventory to focus on training using one platform. Couldn't be happier, even with all the disgust that I get for shooting a Glock. I don't know why people care. Like a Glock is a very utilitarian choice. It's good. Video title, best pistol ever. Holds up a Glock. Facepalm emojis. I'm out of here. Better things to do with my time. Fair enough. If I can only use one, I would choose something that was proven to not break at very high round counts. I think there's probably better options than Glocks now. As far as longevity, I really don't think so. I really don't think so. Yeah, anyway. I heard rental Gen 3 Glocks would crack slides at 100,000 rounds. And then Gen 4 starts seeing same failures at 10,000 rounds. This sounds... I'm skeptical. Let me just tell you, I'm skeptical. So it seems Glock is a brand name with degrading quality, possibly. I would want something guaranteed to run a long time without critical parts failure and to be as logistically independent as possible besides ammo. Yeah, so it sounds like you want a Glock. I don't even own a Glock. I have numerous other options. If I were forced to pick when I get the 19, yeah, that's the only alternative would be the M&P 9 in the same form factor, but the Glock 19 wins because of the abuse that people have forced them through along with the track record. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I choose them for sure. Yeah, and I do think the track record does count for something. At least in my head, because if you're shooting Glock pistols over time or watching over time, they do run pretty well. There's a track record where a lot of people trust those things. Glock 19 is a Toyota Camry of guns. Yes. It does what it needs to pretty well. There's nothing wrong with them. I tell everyone who asks if you can shoot a Glock 19, buy a Glock 19. I don't like them as much as my P320, so I don't shoot one. But if I was rich, I'd buy about a dozen to have in case someone needed a gun. Perfect. Yes. That's good. I really look at the 19. I say this as someone who EDCs a Gen 5 19 as the best compromise pistol. Fair, yeah. It's small enough, it's fairly easy to conceal, large enough you can run it as a duty pistol if you choose. Yeah. The big selling point to most is that it takes the same parts as the other Glocks, so you aren't stepping out of the ecosystem like you would with other designs. And if you don't own 40 Glock mags nowadays, what are you even doing? Doesn't really excel at either role spectacularly, but it does work. I'd argue the 48, especially with the shield mag, makes a more compelling carrying gun. Yeah, fine. Yeah, I don't think there's a huge difference, but that's good. I prefer my Canik TP9. It doesn't feel like holding a block of wood. That's fair. The Caniks don't work for me, but I do like them. The only reasonable justification for a Glock has been its reliability. Sadly for Glock, many other guns are just as reliable and have much better triggers, much better sights, better mags, and astoundingly better ergonomics. The arrogance of Glock has caught up with them. Explain to me the logic of spending $600 plus on a Glock, knowing you're going to put an additional $500 or more into it to make it what you want and need it to be. Obviously my personal opinion, but I know it's shared with many others. That hasn't been my experience with Glocks. I have some that have the extra $500 into them, and I have some that don't. And it's like, there's not, like, I can't say economically the $500 of bullshit on the gun is like something you need. It's like, maybe you like it, but you don't need it. Glocks suck. Let's make this the last comment. I like this. Glocks suck. I have never regretted selling all of the ones I've ever bought because they don't do anything well enough to warrant keeping them. MOS is a shit system for many reasons. For newer shooters, limp wristing tends to jam them. Their mags are too thick and therefore hold way less rounds than they should. Their performance trigger has issues. They can't be field stripped without the pull of a trigger, and so on and so forth. Yeah. That's, like I said, you get a lot of opinions on the internet, and that's Chinese mass production's opinion. It's a good one. Anyway, folks, I appreciate playing along. It is fun just to get people wound up sometimes and read the comments. It's amazing.